Today on Thrive Loud with Lou Diamond.
I use to help others. And it's a 3-word question, very simple, but there's a trap in it. The simple question is, what's bothering you?
Hey Thrive Loud listeners, it's winter. There's a lot of things you're just gonna have to let go in this season, like the sun, the flowers, and the feeling of your feet, and so on. But there's one thing that you shouldn't let go. The Thrive Loud podcast, hosted by Lou Diamond. Just sing Let It Go at the top of your lungs. And remember that in the midst of this freezing winter where you're feeling like you just hate life, Lou Diamond will never let you go. Neither would Olaf. So go listen to this episode and more, because it's not like you're going to be doing anything better outside right now.
Get ready to thrive loud with Lou Diamond.
Welcome everyone to another episode of Thrive Loud with Lou Diamond, connecting you to the most inspiring and amazing people that are thriving each and every day. I'm your host, Lou Diamond. Today on Thrive Loud, we have a man who has spent 40 years in hiding. He is now ready to unmask himself and adjust the score in life. He is now on a mission to help others unmask themselves to improve their lives and businesses by hiding no more. He is the host of a fun podcast show called The Hidden Entrepreneur. He is with us today. He's a charming individual. He's got such a bright smile, and he's really upset that this was just an audio podcast because he really thought he wanted to show his lovely little outfit that he put on for the show today. But all that being said, Thrive Loud fans, get ready to have a lot of fun with Josh Cary. Josh, how are you today?
Lou Diamond, how can't I be, especially with an intro like that? I am smiling bright. Thank you for acknowledging that, even on the audio. And to call me charming, thank you very much.
Isn't that nice, by the way, that the phone is ringing in the background, which is obviously, I think, maybe, you know what? I have a feeling that might be a gentleman by the name of Adam Schlattner who's just calling in to say, no, you guys can't go on the air. I don't think that's going to happen. That being said, I've just recently met Josh. He is a spectacular individual with a great story, a true entrepreneur at heart, but a real interesting story in how he uncovered all of that. So Josh, if you could, share with the Thrive Loud community to kick things off here a little bit of your journey and where you got to today. And I have a feeling we will have a fun back and forth.
Well, I appreciate that. My name is Josh Cary. Like you said, I am the hidden entrepreneur. And this year I turned 44. And what I find so interesting about that is it really surprised the heck out of me. You know, just like you're going along your day and you know it's your birthday, but you don't realize how old you actually are. And I don't know what it was about this birthday, but life just sort of smacked me upside the head and said, here, happy birthday, you're 44. And I thought, well, there's no way that could be. And it turns out it could be. And that really shook me up because best case scenario, on a good day, my life is half over. That's best case scenario. And you know what? I don't like those odds. And I don't really like how I've been the first half. So best case, I have 50% more of my life to go. And the thing about that is when somebody reaches 90 and they pass away, we don't look at that as a tragedy. We don't say, oh, how did he die? 90, that's how he died. But we look at it like, oh, wow, he lived to 90. And I know personally that if I was going along the path that I was for the first half of my life to complete the second half of my life, and if I got to 90, I wouldn't have lived to 90. I would have made it to 90. I would have survived or existed to 90, but I certainly wouldn't have lived to 90. And I didn't like that future among other things I saw in my future. So I was ready, willing, and able to make some changes.
Okay, so hold on. Let's stop right there. What were the things that you were unhappy with? And what were you doing that at that particular point? So paint the picture, if you would, for what was the unhappiness that you uncovered?
Great question. So I've been aware for much of my life, all 4 decades, how unhappy I was, and I've given it some effort. I've put in a true effort to make change, but it never really came for one reason or another. I am blessed, really, to have 2 small children in my life today. I have an incredible 5-year-old daughter, an amazing 3-year-old son, who are my everything. Look, I had no idea how much I would love, adore, and embrace fatherhood, but I do. I just love being a father. And for the first little part of their short lives so far, I was not a good father. And I acknowledged the same things, but I guess when you have children, they sort of highlight that. At least for me, I was like, okay, wait, I can't be this angry, frustrated person anymore. I didn't want to be. I was that person so much of my life for reasons we can get into. But just seeing these 2 adoring children looking back up at you for love, attention, affection, direction, I said, I can't be this person that I am with them staring back at me. And my biggest flaw at the end of the day was I was seeking approval of anybody and everybody in my life all throughout my life. It showed up in a 15-year acting and film career. It showed up in business. It showed up in just life in general, in every way. Just like me, please accept me. And what I was able to see were these 2 children. Let's take my 5-year-old daughter, for example. I knew she's watching my every move because really she has no other gauge of the world around her. So if she sees her dad seeking the approval of anybody and everybody, I realized that for her could get very ugly very quickly. And I didn't want to see myself as an empty nester 20 years in the future, sitting in a rocking chair and seeing my daughter as a young adult trying to navigate the world around her, me having done what would have been the best that I knew how, and have her seek approval of anybody and everybody else. So I said, you know what? I got to get this whole thing in order.
Okay, so I get that, right? Because you've lived your life thinking that you needed to make other people happy, and as you mentioned, that you were an actor. Obviously, we're trying to get applause or smiles or jobs, whatever it might be. I want to ask this question really carefully here, because sometimes you say bells go off in your head and you want to make a change as a better representative. Did you have a vision of what different looked like in your mind? What was the change? Or did you just needed to shift gears? Help talk about the actual transition that made you say, I got to stop what I'm doing. I'm going to do something next. And something next looks like this.
Yeah, so exactly that. What clicked was that the issue in my life isn't around out there externally. It isn't the people, places, or things in my life that is angering me and frustrating me, right? It was that click that, oh my goodness, it's me. It's internal. Let me start there. So I came up with this question that really helped me and that I use to help others. And it's a 3-word question, very simple, but there's a trap in it. The simple question is, What's bothering you? What's bothering you? And typically when I ask somebody that, they'll say, well, my wife or my boss or my kids, or right, everything external. And it's not who's bothering you. So for me, it's what's bothering you. What that forces you to do, obviously, is look inward. And what I was able to do is get comfortable with the emotions I was feeling. So what was bothering me? I was very angry. I was very frustrated. I was confused. I felt misunderstood. I was lonely, right? All these things. So for you, what is the emotion or few dominant emotions that are just bothering you? And once you can acknowledge that, once I acknowledge that, I was able to say, okay, why? why am I angry? And you don't have to live there. You don't have to go back years and years. You just have to figure out what is triggering that and then look to the solution. Okay, great. Now that I know I'm very angry, I'm very frustrated. For me, it was such frustration because I knew that there was so much more that I could be and should be doing, but things just weren't externally paying off. So I said, well, why is that? I feel like I'm smart enough, I'm capable enough, I'm driven enough, but the external result was never there. And I said, what is this about? And it was simply about me living constantly in a state of fear. I was fearful of everything. I was fearful of ridicule. I was fearful of being, put down and not feeling strong enough to stick up for myself and all this stuff. So I said, well, if that's the case, if I'm taking the responsibility of what's bothering me, I'm getting a little intimate with why that's the case. I've unraveled that it's fear of all this stuff. How can I look at my daily habits and actions, embrace them, and categorize them and say, what is absolutely not working for me? What little actions do I know are not serving me? And there are so many. I bet you have 10 or 15 or more little things that you do or don't do that don't serve you. And if you want to make a change, you have to start changing them. No excuses. You've heard it before, but that's the only way. And that has been the motivating factor. Looking at my children, finally seeing best case scenario, my life is half over. I want to get this right. I want to have a much better second half than I've ever had and start making these small, consistent changes.
Josh, we do this thing. I do this when I speak, and a lot of the things and some of the top leaders I mentor. And to your point about fear, I'm all about achieving a fearless mindset. And to do that, that's moving through fear into courage. And one of the tactics that I recommend, aside from obviously the thing that you just mentioned, which is what's bothering you is basically identifying that there's a problem or identifying and naming the fear. But to move the fear through courage, one of the tips that I do is to spin the fear on its head. So I guess I'm kind of interested, since your fear was that you were afraid of everything, I want to know what you did to turn the tables and flip that fear into courage.
Great. So first is the acknowledgement, and then saying, okay, what am I doing? What are my small little habits that are not serving me? And for me, it wasn't about the big change. I was able to identify a lot of little things that I was doing that was just not serving and beating myself up, and said, all right, well, let me change this little thing. Something as simple as getting up early, right? Instead of sleeping in, just get up early, because you know that that's a better habit. So these small, consistent changes is part of what helped me show up in the world more confidently, just even tiptoeing into it, saying, well, I was scared. I'm going to do this. I'm taking responsibility. I'm taking ownership. And that's how you build the confidence you need, one little step at a time. And that kind of thing builds on itself with tremendous momentum. So eventually you can displace these unhealthy habits and these insecure feelings, these fearful feelings, and tackle and target and make the definitive decision of being fearless, like you said.
We're here with Josh Cary, and we're moving down the road, and we're trying to understand uncovering the hidden entrepreneur himself, and that's where I want to get to, Josh. And that is, with this movement, obviously, it sounds like you've got some pretty strong coaching internalness, and you're helping people uncover this hidden entrepreneur. Can you talk a little bit about the work that you're doing and the podcast you're doing and everything, so people can understand a lot of the key tactics that you're dealing with each day?
Yes, absolutely. So the podcast, like you said, is my way to connect with other brilliant, successful entrepreneurs who, and it seems like they're all over, right? There's certainly parts of all of us that have lived in fear and have said, yeah, I've been there. And quite frankly, I still live in fear every day because, as I'm sure you know, it's never about eradicating the fear. It's how you acknowledge it, embrace it, and move through it. So a lot of the work I do revolves around first a discussion of let's figure out where you are today. What is the overriding issue that you feel up against, that you feel blocked by? And to give you an example, for me, it was, you know what? I'm showing up every day and I think I'm pretty smart and intelligent and capable, but I'm hitting a wall each time. I just can't get past this, or I can't get through that. And then it's okay, well, what's bothering you? Now let's figure out the emotions involved that are keeping you there. For me, a lot of anger, a lot of frustration. I couldn't understand why that was happening. I knew I was more capable. Okay, so where is this coming from? What's actually happening? And all this anger and frustration I was keeping internal. I was keeping because of this fear. And I said, I discovered my big overriding why. Finally, eventually, for me, it became my children and who were looking up at me. And I said, I can't be this person anymore. That, as you know, is the bottom line, right? You have to want that more than you don't want that. And too often you don't change until there is a big reason to. And, you know, a lot of people aren't ready. They don't mentally or emotionally want to go down that path on a very, very guttural level. They'll say, yes, I want to change. I need to change. I have to change. But why don't we change? So it's not an overnight thing, but I think like somebody says, I'm going to the gym, you know, I have to lose weight. I have to get in shape, whatever it is. And then they might go once or twice or not go at all. Why is that? Because the big goal is to,
because working out is really hard, Josh. Sometimes it's
it absolutely is. And I'm saying you don't even have to go to the gym. You know what? Fine. Let's have a goal to go to the gym, but let's determine what you can do right now. Can you drink more water? Can you take a fast food meal out of your diet? Can you eat less junk food? Can you get a better night's sleep? Can you exercise around your block at night if you can't yet go to the gym? So there are 100 things you can do now where you don't make excuses. You can make progress or you can make excuses. So you have to want it. You have to put in an ounce of work if you really want to unravel this and come out of hiding and stop living in fear.
Josh, I want to hit this big point because you've been dancing around it, but I think there's a key point in here. And I'll just ask it very simply. What does success mean for Josh Cary?
Whew. Such a good question, a big question, because I think you agree success is defined differently for all of us, right? So success for me is waking up and feeling good, feeling joy, feeling like I can do what I want to do and that I have accomplished what I want to accomplish, not chasing anything. That's been the big thing my whole life, chasing this thing for unhealthy reasons, you know, for outside approval, for seeking that approval, which is all ego based. So if I wake up in the morning, love my children, and have a fantastic day serving the people I want to serve, feeling authentic and transparent, and knowing that I did my best in any regard, in every regard that I want to do, that is success.
So And I love that answer, and I think it's solid, because I think that the key piece here is, look, a lot of people have been told what success looks like, and that ends up falling into your initial description about helping to please others, because all that really matters is what pleases you. And with that, and helping others, I guess some of the uncovering tasks are always challenging, right? How do you uncover what success even means for a business, for an entrepreneur, what they're looking for? Is it's not so much a revenue number, right? In many cases, it could be a cause. It could be getting the business up on the ground. One of the things we do in this group that I'm affiliated with is a success isn't always a win. In fact, many times a success is a loss or somebody saying no, because you learned something from that experience. You need those no's and losses and things that don't do it to be able to recognize that they're only going to make you build and be stronger. And if you don't do that, like, if you get hit with too many things, either one, you're going to be making people unhappy all the time, and two, maybe more notably, you're not going to be, because you're going to have more no's than you have yeses. And at the end of the day, like, finding every bit to figure out what's successful is a key thing. That's maybe one of the hidden secrets of being an entrepreneur, is while everyone always hears the successful, quote unquote, entrepreneurs have, you always hear about the wins. There were way more losses that happened before that.
Yeah, absolutely. It all comes down to taking more swings, right? You always have to, that's how you're going to succeed. And it's an interesting thing, because ego-based, everything played such a big part of my life. And I know for so many of our lives, especially mine, for so long, where you try something, you do something, and you don't, quote unquote, succeed, and you feel a certain way. But that's the feeling that becomes detrimental, because it's not about, it's not about that. It's about the try, the learning experience of it all.
Josh, aside from your kids, on the days that you're not thriving and that you're looking to step up the level, and you're not on your game, what practice do you seek, or what individual do you seek out to help get you back on the thriving track?
I've heard this word for years and years and disregarded it. Meditation, right? That word never hit home until somewhat recently. And I guess that's common for anything, right? We're not ready until we're ready. When the student is ready, the teacher will appear, type thing. And finally, this past couple of years, meditation came across my world. And prior, within all this fear and stress and anxiety, I couldn't shut off my mind, right? It was just atrocious. And it became such a detriment. And finally, I guess I was ready for meditation, and I embraced it. And to this day, now I do it, I make it a daily practice. And what that does is allow me to control the thoughts in my mind. It allows me to focus. It allows me to shut off the voices and minimize them at every turn. And it's those little things that I said earlier about displacing all of these negative things, or less than positive actions or habits you do every day. And something like meditation is great for me as a confidence builder, a confidence booster, and just restructuring and rewiring my system, my brain, my person.
Josh, let's before I get to the admin stuff, I want to ask you a question. You've got your podcast, The Hidden Entrepreneur, and I love asking podcast hosts this question, and that is, what is something unexpected that you have gained from bringing all these different guests onto the program? Maybe one specific message you learned from one guest, or the overall experience, something that you truly have gained from being the listener.
Yes, it's an easy answer, and I was shocked at the relationships that I would build with many many of the guests. Early on, I started realizing that this is such an intimate, really, thing here that it allows you to just experience something together where you can thrive, right? Absolute pun intended. And what I didn't realize was that how amazing each and every one of these relationships was. I've already worked with some guests on projects. I've already met some guests. It just goes deep. So I was shocked that the relationships with the guests themselves would be so important, so pivotal in my life and in my business in so many ways.
So just a quick sidebar to this was recently I got to hear one of the greatest interviewers of all time at a conference, and it was Larry King. Larry's interviewed probably more people than anyone on the planet. I think that's probably fair. And he's retired now, obviously. But the only things that he comes out of retirement for is to kind of be a panel host at conferences like he was and interview 3 or 4 people at once so people can see him and he could hear these conversations, because the thing he missed most was that connection he had asking the questions that he did. And they know he seeks it out. Now, the other joke that he always has is, but then again, I've spoken to everybody on the world, so who else is there to talk to? But there's lots of people. They keep coming and recycling. So, all right. So at this point, Josh, do me a favor. We're going to provide it in the show notes and all the links. Share with the Thrive Loud community all the places people can find you so that they can hear it from you, which is always better, but they'll read in the notes. Just places to learn more about the Josh Cary.
JoshCary.com is the portal for everything.
That's really easy. That was almost too easy. All right, well, that's good. We'll put that link there and all your social media links as well. And the name of the program is Hidden Entrepreneur. It airs weekly, monthly. What's the frequency?
I got to shout out to the one Lou Diamond, who we had a conversation, Lou, off the air. And through our conversation, you said something that allowed me to take what was a weekly podcast to now, dare I say, 3 times per week. Every Sunday, Tuesday, and Thursday, a new episode. Thanks for the push from you.
Misery loves company. No, for only people who host podcasts who listen to programs understand the effort that's entailed. But it is a great thing, and that's good that you're giving the frequency. And and your guests are loving it too, because they're getting to connect their message out sooner, which is awesome.
Absolutely.
All right, so Josh Cary was literally revved up for this question because he's familiar with Thrive Loud, and it's been a pleasure hearing all this great stuff, your entrepreneurial journey, your message about really to help understand how people and what's bothering you, which I love that way that you've directed that. Josh, I know you really want to share with everybody, what's your all-time favorite movie?
When Harry Met Sally.
So this is interesting. I had a lead in that this might be the answer. Why does this movie connect so much with you, and why is it your favorite?
Oh man. So there are really so many reasons. Now I come from the acting and film world, as I mentioned, but more specifically, my little niche in that industry was in the comedy world. I did stand up. I spent a lot of time as part of a comedy team. I wrote comedy. So this movie just really epitomizes the spectacular brilliance of collaboration. First of all, whether it's in the entertainment industry or even in business or in life, nothing excites me more than collaboration, because nothing happens as a one-person show. So, I mean, come on. You have Billy Crystal, one of the all-time comedy legends, directed by Meathead from All in the Family, Rob Reiner, written by Nora Ephron, one of the great comedy writers. I also adore and love romantic and relationship comedies. When I was active in the entertainment industry, I would always focus on that. I had a very Seinfeldian feel for things, and I just loved like relationships and romance and the way men and women related or didn't relate. And When Harry Met Sally sort of epitomizes all of that. You have fantastic acting. You have incredible writing. It takes place in and around New York City, my absolute favorite place to be in the whole wide world. Some of it happens around Christmas in New York. Who doesn't love that? You have the soundtrack, Harry Connick with some Gershwin. I'm a fan of Broadway, so I love all of that. And just everything, it's just classic in so many ways, just pushes all of my buttons.
I just know that my editing team is sitting there trying to figure out what the heck they're going to put as the movie clip at the end of the episode. And I'm just going to give them all just do not put in the Cat's Deli scene, guys. Do not put it in. We don't need it. We'll put up another clip.
Yes, you know it. I'll have what she's having.
Exactly. All that being said, Josh, thank you for coming on the program. This has been great stuff. Continued success with Hidden Entrepreneur. Continued success helping others come out of hiding, because I think it's a great thing you're doing.
This has been an absolute honor. I mean that, Lou. Thank you so much.
To all our Thrive Loud listeners out there, keep thriving onward and upward. And remember, be brief, be bright, be gone.
You've been listening to Thrive Loud with Lou Diamond, you lucky person you. As long as you're not a weirdo, make sure to subscribe on iTunes, Overcast, or wherever you get your podcasts. Please, I'm begging you, we're really cool. Also, follow us on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. Come on, I know you all have those social media platforms and you use them on the daily. If not, find us on the web at thriveloud.com. It was nice thriving with you, and see you next time.